Hey everyone, I was able to purchase a house for $1. This house fixed up was worth $180,000. In this video, I'm going to share with you why it made sense for the seller, how it helped and served them, and how this deal was able to be pulled off. If you stick with me in this video, I'm going to teach you how to do creative deals, make an absolute fortune, and make lifetime friends in the process. Everyone, this YouTube channel is set up and built 100% for you to be successful. If you're serious about becoming successful, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon if you're not wanting to miss out on a video that could put millions of dollars in your business. Hey everyone, my name is Zack Boothe, and over the last handful of years, I've made millions of dollars in the real estate investing space using all sorts of different strategies. The main thing that I have learned is the importance of finding people that want to sell at a discount. This happens because they are in need of help, they have a weird situation, family, personal, or emotional needs, or sometimes financial needs they need help with. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how to structure your offer to help and serve the needs of those people so they get what they want, what they need, and still have a profit available. I'm going to ask you guys a question I would love to know in the comments below. Do you have any doubts that you can make a ton of money doing real estate investing and do it ethically? Is it ethical to get properties at a massive discount and make a ton of money, or are you taking advantage of people? Do you have that doubt? Do you have that fear? Comment yes or no below, because I definitely did when I first started. I want to know how many of you are in that position right now in your mindset. Is it okay? Is it ethical to make all this money? When I first took the full-time plunge into real estate investing, I was doing a few deals, but I took a part-time job. It was really full-time. I was working crazy hours, but I took a full-time job with a local real estate wholesaling business. So what that is a business that does marketing. They find properties at a discount and pass the opportunity on for a finder's fee. So the job I took was someone that goes and negotiates with the seller and gets the properties under contract at a very low price. And I took that job to learn and to grow, and I thought that would be a very important thing to understand and do well if I wanted to be successful. In those 3 months before I was fired, I learned some very valuable lessons. The number one thing that I learned, and that you really need to make sure you understand, is how important it is when you go meet with a seller that your focus and energy needs to be on figuring out their problems and their needs and exactly what they need help with. Not how do I talk them out of a certain price or convince them to do a deal at a certain price. If you can get good at connecting with people and learning to ask intelligent questions to uncover all the problems and frustrations that you have, you will be very successful in this business. Stick with me and I'm going to share how this is done and how I was able to buy a house for $1. As I said, I took a job as an acquisition manager, and my trainer was Mark Stubler, an incredible guy. You can probably look him up. I'm sure he's been on a bunch of podcasts, but he is a complete rock star, and he's the one that taught me the majority of what I know about negotiations and negotiating with sellers to get properties at 40-50 cents on the dollar. He taught me the importance of understanding the problems and the needs of the seller so you can make offers that serve and help them with whatever their needs and concerns are. He taught me this by sharing a story or an experience of him doing a deal and making over $60,000 by finding the deal and passing it on for a finder's fee. So he didn't get any debt or anything, and he made over $60,000. So here's a story he told me as I remember it. He had a seller reach out and said, "Hey, I have a condo. It's a vacation property for me. It was here in Utah, and I think he lived in Texas. It doesn't matter. He lived out of the state, and he bought this vacation property to come to Utah to go skiing." He said, "I haven't been there in a couple years. I'm super busy with my work. I have my luxury car in the garage and a bunch of my personal belongings in the condo. It's in really good shape. I just haven't been there in years. I just don't want to deal with it. And I'm flying out there in 2 months to deal with it. I got to get my car shipped home and all my stuff. And then I have a few investors that have reached out, and I'm just going to take highest and best and be done with it. I don't want to deal with it." He's like, "I want the convenience. I don't want to list it. I just want to be done." He's like, "So I've got a bunch of investors lined up to come look at the property." So Mark Stubler heard this story, and he said to the seller, he said, "That's completely understandable. Do you have an idea of what you'd like to make when you are ready to sell it?" And figured out his price point. The price that he was asking for was very low, and he knew that he could make a lot of money if he could get the contract. So he said to the seller, he said, "Okay, Mr. Seller, you may hate this idea, So use that sentence. You may hate this idea, because then you're proposing something. You're not necessarily making an offer, but you're brainstorming with him. It allows him to think about your offer, think about what you're going to share, and give his perspective or how he could alter it to really fit his needs. So Mark Stubler said, you might hate this idea, but what if I pay out of my own pocket to ship your car to you, have a professional company ship it to you, and all your belongings in your house, and take a picture and video of the empty house and having it all cleaned out for you. Once you receive all your stuff, then we can close on the property at the price that you want. You don't have to waste your time. You don't have to fly here, and it's convenient like you're asking for, but even more so than what you originally had told me. What do you think of that idea? The seller was super excited. He said, 100%, let's do it. They signed a purchase agreement, and in that agreement, they had a little paragraph at the end called an addendum that allows you to make any special changes to the agreement. And he put in that he would move the car and all the belongings, and that was non-refundable money that Mark would put into the deal. And so all these other investors that had reached out to the seller were going to wait 2-3 months and hopefully call. By the time they called back, the property was gone and Mark Stubler had $60,000 in his pocket. So it's very important to understand the needs and problems of the seller, and understand that you need to solve the problems and needs of that seller for them to want to work with you. It's about serving and helping others as much as it is about convincing them that the price that you're offering makes sense. The seller named the price. The seller knew it was at a discount. He was fine with that, just as long as it was convenient for him. Not too long after I learned this, I had a lead come in. Her name was Maria. We had driven around, found some ugly houses, used what's called driving for dollars to identify these ugly houses or these beat up houses. And then we send out postcards, cold call and texting. But Maria got our postcard and she called us and she said she would like to sell her house. And I didn't know at that time it was listed with a real estate agent actually. But I got talking to her about her needs and her problems. And this is her situation. These are the problems that she was dealing with. She had saved up for her, for 20 something years to have enough cash to buy her first house. She went and bought this house that had fire damage. She was able to get it at a super low price, bought it off the MLS, and she got it for such a low price because it had fire damage, structural damage. There wasn't electrical or plumbing working in the house, and they used all of their savings to buy this house cash. They then moved into the house. Their heating was a wood-burning stove. They cooked on the wood-burning stove. There was no AC, no electrical. So their living conditions were pretty tough, but they had saved up. They were so excited to have their first home, her and her husband. So what happened is the city came along and said, it's not safe to live in it. You have to get a structural engineer to give you engineer plans and fix up the house with city permits and make sure the remodel's done, properly and within a certain amount of time and everything else, of course. Well, they were just doing it as they could afford it and saving up and doing the work themselves. So they were forced to move out of the house they had saved up for and rented an apartment. And that's all fine and everything, but then came the problem of not having very much leftover money after paying rent and fixing up the house. So they weren't able to work on the house as much. And then on top of that, they were getting government subsidies. They were getting some government income to help pay for their bills. But for whatever the regulation was, they were going to lose that extra income from the government because they had 2 different addresses, and that was against their benefit package requirements because they had an investment property in their own primary residence, and they were going to lose all this extra money on top of it. So now they have the local government and the federal government pressing them. They were stuck between a hard spot and a rock. They did not want to sell their house that they had saved their lifetimes for, but they were being forced to not lose that income. And so when I called them, I learned all of these things and found out that it was listed with a real estate agent so they could keep their financing, but they really didn't want to sell it. So once I found out it was listed with a real estate agent, I called the real estate agent and said, hey, they called me. I didn't know it was listed. As soon as I found out, I called you. So this is what they told me. This is the predicament that they have. I'd like to help them keep their home because that's what they want. And we talked and negotiated what would work and how we could help these sellers. And I worked with the real estate agent on this deal, which makes it even cooler. So let me explain what I did and how it was structured so that I could get the property for $1 and help these people and ultimately allow them to keep the house long-term and still make a bunch of money along the way. So this is really fun. Before we dive into how I solved this problem, make sure you smash that like button and we'll keep going. So the first thing I did is I checked with the government and her subsidies that she was receiving on what the regulations were. How long could they keep the 2 residences without losing that income? We filed for an extension. We shared a letter of what our plans were and everything else. So we made sure that they would not be hurt by going through the process. Then what we did is I bought the house for $1. So we signed a purchase agreement and sell agreement that I would buy the house for $1 from Maria. That way she could keep her rental and not lose that government subsidy. Then what we did is I took my own money and hired a contractor and paid a civil engineer to get me structural plans and remodeled this fire damaged house and made it beautiful and increased the value by a lot. What I then did is refinance my money. I put about $60,000 into the remodel. I refinanced all my money out, so I got my $60,000 and started making payments to the bank. As soon as the remodel was done, Maria signed a lease option with me. What a lease option is she's going to rent the house from me. So she was renting the house, and then she had an option to buy the house for $30,000 above what I put into it. So she had an option to buy the house back from me for $90,000. And she had 2 years to do so. If she didn't exercise that right to buy the house back from me for $90,000 within those 2 years, then I would list the property for sale. I would keep $90,000 of the proceeds, and the rest of the profits would then go to Maria. She was able to, after those 2 years, we ended up selling the house after 2 years, and we got her another house, and I actually helped her find her next house. It was actually closer to mine. I'll explain why we did that. But she was able to live in her house, fully remodeled. She was able to keep all of her income, her subsidized income. And I was able to go in and make the property and keep the city happy and everything else. And I was able to make a return throughout the process, right? After those 2 years, we decided to sell the house. She made more money than she would have made selling it with the fire damage situation, right? Because I improved the value, and after 2 years, it went up in value as well. But the cool thing is, we went through all of this stuff together. We solved all these problems together. And one of my favorite parts of this story is, besides being creative and helping Maria and her family, is we've become lifelong friends. She actually helps my wife a lot with the kids and helps with some of the cleaning in my office and at my house. Maria's become like a second mom to my wife and to my kids. My little girl calls her Ia. And anyways, we love her to death, and she actually lives much closer now. And so when we sold the house, we got her one closer. And anyways, they're just wonderful people. And I'm just so grateful that real estate has allowed me to help solve problems and be creative and make money and really help people along the way. In summary, remember the goal is to find people that listing their property with a traditional real estate agent isn't their best option. They need something more creative. They need it faster. They need it more simple, whatever the situation may be. That's the first goal. If you can get good at that, then you can actually have a chance of making money. Once you find those sellers, you really need to understand their needs and also the potential issues that they don't even know that they have. Once you uncover those problems, then you structure an offer that serves the seller and helps them in their need and whatever they want to accomplish, and structuring it where you can make some money as well. And be completely transparent with that seller that I plan to make money, but I'm going to help you through the process. And this is kind of how we could structure it, right? They're going to be happy that you make a profit just as long as you help them and serve them and listen to their needs and what they're trying to accomplish. You're going to build lifelong relationships. You're going to have friendships. You've had it. I've had even some of my sellers on my podcast sharing their experience as well. So you can 100% make a lot of money, be very ethical, and really serve and help people as you do this business. If you guys are wanting to get started in this business, if you're not really sure where to start and you're needing the steps A through Z, if you need access to a coach, you need my cell phone number to help you answer your questions and help you through your deals. If you need a marketing strategy to find deeply discounted deals, all of those things I can 100% help you. I coach people. I've helped so many people do this. I absolutely love it. So if you guys would like to get started or learn more about my coaching program, go to dfdmastery.com/start now. You can grab it in the show notes. It'll take you to book a call. You'll talk to us about the program and how it works. So go book a call. We'll talk to you shortly. All right, everyone, thank you so much. On the end screen, I'm going to put some cool videos here that you guys might like as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you in the next one.